My name is Marcell Hanson, and you're listening to Small Habits, Big Changes. Let's dive in. To this week's episode, we've got a special treat. We've brought back a very popular episode from a few months back with Dr. Jannine Krause. We took an abbreviated version of some of the more requested parts of that interview, and we've recaptured it for you today. So without further ado, please welcome and enjoy the musings and value brought to you through this episode. If it's intriguing to you, please go back and check out the full episode. I believe it aired in March, and it was over 2 hours long. Again, we've given you an abbreviated version today, so we hope you enjoy. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for a little chat session here. I think that we are on the same page around trying our damnedest to inspire and educate folks into being their own, I think you call it your own best doctor.
Yeah. Well, as a naturopath, I was trained, and I think some people aren't really sure what a naturopath is or what we do. We're trained like regular conventional doctors, but yet we have more time looking at herbs, we literally take counseling classes. I learned how to cook whole foods cooking in school, which is so cool.
Right.
So we have that background, right? But we also have the background that every single person is unique, right? Everyone's got their own things, like you said, that they bring to the table. And unfortunately, even in the natural medicine realm, we've forgotten. And we've went on this pathway of one size fits all natural medicine, which sucks. And so that's one side of the thing. The other side of the coin that I bring to the table too is Chinese medicine looks at things as, let's go with dynamic. It's a changing, ever-changing body. Like one day we might be hot or cold, right? One day we might have excess little deficiency, which to the average person that might sound crazy bizarre, but you're changing every day is what I'm saying. And so if we're following cookie cutter advice, but we're changing every day, are we really able to get to the root of what's going on with us?
Amen. I love the word dynamic actually, because it's something I've been encountering over the last couple of years with my biometrics and utilizing this pretty substantiated data that comes to me every single day. I like to incorporate more recently. I've been incorporating checking in with myself, how do I feel? What's going on? What would be my assessment? And then looking at the biometrics and seeing if they line up. I think it's really humorous. People online are like, I get such good sleep. I'll go to bed at 10 and I get up at 6. I get 8 hours. I'm like, because you spent 8 hours in bed, even with your eyes shut and feeling like you were asleep, you didn't get 8 hours of quality sleep. It's just not how it works. And I think talking about that and letting people know that's not actually realistic. The likelihood that you are getting half that in deep sleep is unlikely. If you're getting really good restorative sleep, you might get 2.5, 3. I've gotten 4 hours after hard workout. All those 8 hours, they're not spent in rejuvenated time of restoration sleep, for example, right? You have awake time, whether you feel like you're awake. You don't have to go to the bathroom or get up and do something to be technically awake as far as your physiology is concerned. And then you have your light sleep and REM sleep and deep sleep. But it's interesting when I have those biometrics looking at me, it's like, wow, they are different. You're not going to have a green recovery every single day, especially when you've done certain things, maybe overextended yourself. You're going to fall into a yellow recovery if we're talking from WHOOP standards. And you have to adjust to that. You can't say, I'm going to work out Monday through Friday and expect to be at your best. Your body needs recovery time. And for some people, that recovery time is extended if they have something personal going on, or if they're rearing kids, or they have an aging pet at home, or, an aging parent across the country. These things all come into play with how we dynamically have to respond to what's going on in our body. It sounds like a full-time job. I kind of love that, but I don't want to burden people with the fact that this is changing every day. I find that it has increased my awareness about what is going on. And for me, since that is my top priority, I adjust my day. And I know some people feel trapped in their 9 to 5 or whatever they're doing as an entrepreneur and a business owner. I just don't do that. If I wake up and my body's not doing its best, I adjust my day. There's,
Mhm.
I'll cancel things or bump them or move them or, add acupuncture or massage or resting or meditation. I adjust my day because that accumulates. You let your body go in a deprived state day after day after day. It gets to the point where maybe you can't catch up as well. So, what do you say to your clients when they come to you, your patients, and they come to you and say, like, I have to go to work? Like, this niggle in my knee has been talking to me, creak, creak, creak for 2 weeks, but I don't have vacation time, or it doesn't catch up on the weekend, or how do you advise or help support someone who feels like they don't have that flexibility in their schedule to take time off to care for themselves? You must encounter that.
It's how can we simplify things, you know? One of the things is like, all right, we all have a couple minutes here and there throughout the day. So if we've got knee pain, the first thing I'm going to be doing, or if we have pain of any kind, the first thing I'm going to do is go, all right, can you do a little gua sha, which is a scraping technique? Could you even do a little bit of myofascial, which I call spreading the taffy? You could get
Mhm.
around there. You could do that. You could even rub your own knee. You can rub the muscles. You could do pressure, trigger point stuff. You could do that at work. Even if you're working on a line, you could probably do something. And everyone gets 15-minute breaks. That is by law. If you have an employer, you have those. And if you're not taking them because you don't smoke, let's put it that way,
Right.
because the smokers always get their breaks.
Yeah.
I will usually tell folks, all right, it's time to start taking breaks. You got 15 minutes twice, and most people have at least a half hour for lunch. So you got time. How are you using it? Instead of scrolling on Instagram or whatever you're doing, we got to look and find the place. So we sleuth it out. We find time. And that's what I'll do with everybody, because we can find time throughout the day. There's always time.
Agreed,
Like,
agreed. I like the reminder that even if you don't smoke, you get a smoke break, break on movement, a snack on exercise, a snack on movement. I try and think of, you don't have to go to the fridge and get something. Yeah, you might have to go to the washroom and
mhm.
go to the bathroom, but you have those minutes where you could be massaging your fingers, your acupressure points and the tips of your fingers, maybe your ears, maybe give yourself a little head rub, if you have the opportunity to break up some of that fascia. And you said spread the taffy, is that what you said?
Anytime you get the body stimulated, meaning you agitate, you irritate a little. I know, like, people think irritate, that's bad. No, it's like, it's a good thing. You're moving stuff. Well, the other thing that I often do, because let's face it, most people are stuck on Zoom calls now a lot for meetings, and
Yeah.
that seems to be what they're tied with. Well, I'm getting pencils out and going to acupoints. Like, if you got a headache, like here, here, even here, up above here, you can literally stick your pencil there and you're like, yeah, I'm totally listening. And you're just using that pencil or pen end of it, not the writing part, use
Yeah.
the other part. And you could just literally hold your finger here. Another thing that I recommend often too is tapping. So emotional freedom technique tapping, because you can hide it so easy. So like you're on a Zoom call and you're like, you're still listening. Nobody knows what you're doing. You're just tapping your fingers. It just looks like it's maybe a nervous habit. And you can hide your hands too, or you
Mhm.
could come up here and tap and it just looks like you're thinking really intensely on whatever the people are saying. And if you're up here, like, you're still thinking. So EFT tapping, especially when you get like an emotional like charge, like your boss is talking on Zoom about new things you have to do, and you're like,
The overwhelm is coming. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'll use pencils, I'll use pens, I'll use, whatever I can get my hands on for those things, or like the tapping, or there are a lot of fun stress tools that you can play with, like the little magnets, and you can play with that on your desk while you're listening to things. And I like a lot of them that do this kind of motion, because we do so much of this with our hands. Doing this can help with elbows and carpal tunnel and things. So I have lots of fun little techniques that I teach people to do while they're pretending to be completely engaged on all of those Zoom meetings back to back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the gut is finally getting the recognition beginning. We're just at the precipice. I really think that the
Yeah.
majority of people don't understand this thing is like the body's brain. It really conducts so much, like so much is going on in the gut. And I think it feels like it's hard to wrap your head around if you had fourth grade physiology and you learned like the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, the colon, like, and that's all you remember. You're like, what is the gut? Where are my nutrients even absorbed? Is that the intestinal tract or is that the stomach? What does the stomach do? And like just knowing about stomach acid, like really, I think the
Yeah.
majority of people would really, really benefit from just a basic human anatomy and physiology course, because
Yeah.
it's pretty enlightening. And I think that's where we come back to traditional Chinese medicine, tongue and pulse I like, but always the poop talk. And everyone outside of TCM is mortified at that discussion, but it's actually a fantastic discussion to have. And I like to bring it to light whenever it's applicable, because that's the excrement of what's going on. It tells so much of the story of, did I absorb the nutrients I needed? Am I even digesting the food? Is there undigested food in my stool? Like, I thought the other day I'd come up with a little book that was like my doctor in a bowl. And I mean, we could probably co-write this in about 15 minutes, because it's just has to be simple, but it's an opportunity that once, twice, maybe 3 times a day, you get a chance to have insight if your body is running optimally or not. And that is like, other than the pulse and the tongue, I don't know anything else that gives so much information in such a short amount of time. Am I missing something? Like, is there a marker that you see other than, say, the tongue is a big giveaway, but nobody knows that. And if you haven't studied traditional Chinese medicine, obviously the pulse is different. We're not talking about the pulse in your carotid that just tells your systolic and diastolic. We're talking about the pulse of each organ that's revealed in the wrist in a certain pattern for trained folks to give a listen, give a feel. But is there any other ones you can think of other than your doc in a bowl and those two that you utilize?
I use the teeth too. Like if the
Mm.
teeth are hurting, if there's anything going on in the gums, I'll use that quite often. And I will use the abdomen in terms of poking on your abdomen. If you've got a spot that hurts, or if you can feel like, gosh, it's so tight under my rib cage, or oh man, just to the side of my belly button really hurts, the right or the left, or oh, something's kind of stabbing me here. It's at least an indication, because Japanese theory is hara. This is hara. Those of you who maybe have heard of this, it's hara abdominal diagnosis. And a lot of times I'll have folks poke around on their abdomen for me. And it's now come full circle because of doing a lot more telehealth. I have folks poking on areas. And so I will use that, but I'll also use different pulses in the body and lymphatics too,
Mm-hmm.
to have folks give me a read. So I'm having folks touch their feet. Can you feel your pulse on the top of your foot? I'll have people go up to the back of their knee. Is it hot? Does it feel weird? Any, lumpies? Then up to the groin. And then I'm like, is there anything going on there? Does it feel tight? I mean, yes, you can have hip flexor stuff. That's a whole nother podcast. But is there any lumpies in there?
Lymphatic ways.
And
Mm-hmm.
yep. And armpits, elbows. But armpits and neck really are the two that I'll do another check-in on people. And here's why. Because one of the other check-ins is our nervous system. And nervous system, gut, hand in hand. I can't treat one without the other. And so a lot of times I'll have people get in the armpits and see if it feels boggy, see if it feels sore in there, feel if it just feels puffy, just not right. Then I'm going to be like, is it affecting the nervous system? Same thing with the neck.
Mm-hmm.
What does it feel like when you poke down? Don't do it on both sides at the same time. I don't want anyone dropping, but one side and the other, like kind of running your finger, poking on your neck. Does anything feel tight, or like, does it even feel like kind of pokey pukey?
Mm-hmm.
That means we've got really tight. We're not draining our brain, and that's not bueno. And also feeling your pulse on each side. Can you feel your pulse evenly on each side? Now that ties into the nervous system. My other check-in is like your heart rate before you get out of bed. That I want to know what people are seeing there. It may change one beat up or down, but if it jumps up a lot, then I'm going to be like, something's got you there, and something to pay attention to. And that's another nervous system check-in.
Nice. So as we wind down, I got couple flash questions just popped into my head. One of those is BPAs. Okay. So, yay or nay, let's say Starbucks, but there's lots of companies that do it. The to-go cups. Any take on those?
God, it's funny because I go to different countries. I was just in the Cayman Islands and they had a whole bunch of to-go cups and there was all plastic. It wasn't even like the silicone topper on it. And honestly, I'm going to say nay, I don't trust.
At least you know what you're getting. If it's straight up plastic, you know what you're getting. Mm-hmm. Hot drinks in a plastic cup, people. I know it sounds like a small thing, but in 10 to 20 years, they're going to come back and be saying how many parts per million they were finding in guts. And it's going to be crazy, because Starbucks has been, as a Seattle native, I got to say, been around as long as me, but they've been doing to-go cups like the ones they have now for decades. And we are talking people that drink out of them every single day. And if you don't know what we're talking about, if you're drinking a hot drink out of these paper cups, know that paper, if it was truly paper or cardboard or any kind of paper product, it would be absorbing the liquid. So there's something, you just got to think about it. Just have to use logical deduction here. If it never dawned on you, don't beat yourself up, but just here, that there's something in there that's prohibiting that liquid from reaching your hand. And it is proven there are plastic particles in there, and your heated liquid going to absorb those. Now, I don't know the research around a cold liquid in there. I wouldn't leave it sitting around and then drink it. They say like 10 minutes. If you haven't consumed it in 10 minutes, there's just little to zero chance that you have not ingested several ppms of some sort of plastic. It doesn't mean don't go to Starbucks or don't go to bring your own cup. Use a glass mug, or if metal floats your boat, ceramic, something that's not going to be leaching. Call it a day, but know that it's out there. We're not just harping on, oh, that's a wasted product and it fills the landfill. It's not about, you're the landfill. Your body is becoming the landfill. You're taking in, it's funny to think about, but it's sickening. Like I always say, if you're not filtering your water, you're the filter. Like you're putting whatever, and that was going to be my next question, as you mentioned filtered water. Like filtered water is got its many stages. And I know on a previous podcast, I went through all the levels of from a Brita to a Santivia to a Berkey, or, whoever was at the time. And I use a Kangen, but the water up here, and I'm in Canada and you're in the States currently, ours is filled with fluoride and chlorine. I can smell the chlorine when I go anywhere because I have both a shower unit and a kitchen unit of my filtration. So if I turn on the water without my filter, instantly my teeth ache. There's so much chlorine in there. So maybe what's your take on filtering your water?
The better system you can possibly get. Sadly, it's the more money you spend, and in most cases, the better. I want people to be considering home filtration systems versus just the countertop. We have Berkey's here. We also have a pretty robust home filtration system. It's a 3-part system. Mm-hmm. I even venture to have folks add the ultraviolet light to the filtration systems. And so, guys, I'm talking, it's a couple $1,000s, but it's well worth the weight in gold, let's put it that way, for your health. Because the Brita's not doing it, and definitely your refrigerator filter.
100% no. I started with a Brita. I hate to throw out my first stage, 35 years ago. That's all I knew. That's all that really was available, to be honest. If you didn't have 20 or 30 grand to put in a home system at that time, it's drastically come down now. You can get a whole home system, a really, really nice one for a big home for 10 grand. And we're talking 5-stage, huge canisters in the basement. Like if you have a big house, you can do the whole house for 10 grand. But back then it just wasn't available. So you also have to kind of change with the times and understand that things are available to you. Different blood tests are available to you now. Urine tests, saliva tests, gut tests, poop tests. All these tests are home kits. They're very readily accessible, and they're not as expensive as what people think. 20, 30 years ago, they just weren't even available. You just couldn't get them. But same with filtration systems. I started with a Brita. I tasted a little different. So I'm like, oh, this tastes a little better. So I stuck with the Brita until I had more money. And then I went up to a nicer double filtered Brita. And then I went up to a Santivia. And it's, the gradients and the steps along the way. You don't just bounce out and go she has a Kangen, I'll get a Kangen. It's $5,000. It's an investment, one that I would buy every single year if I had to. There's no question. The shower unit's quite a bit less. It's half that. But showering in filtered water, absolute game changer. It's like walking out of it's better than a spa, because most spas don't filter their water, actually. So coming out, my hair doesn't get that squeaky, what we call squeaky clean. That's not clean. You talk about pulling taffy. It's squeaky clean hair. That's not a thing. Squeaky clean means you have stripped all of the natural oils out of it. You probably have chlorine in there. It's literally probably squeaky. These are important things. I agree. The highest quality you can afford and justify, and then push yourself to increase that. Don't stop there. If I'd have stopped at a Brita today, that would have done me no good. A Brita is really, it is a step up from most tap water, I believe, but it's many steps down from a very good, high quality home system.
Thank you. I think the biggest thing, like you said, self-discovery, question everything, see what fits for you. That's the most important thing here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, tell our listeners where they can find you. What's the best way? I follow you on Instagram, and I think that's fantastic. I get a good dose of your daily tips, and then a little bit of insight about what the Midwest can produce as far as, I don't know, beautiful scenery and farming harvests. But how can someone reach you if they want to do? Are you licensed to talk to anybody? Like if I was in Canada, I want to pay you, or if I'm in Seattle and you're in the Midwest, can I have a telehealth conference like with you? How does that work?
Yeah. So anybody around the world, whether
Oh,
Canada, whether, anywhere, that's my coaching kind of service, consulting and coaching, can do that wherever. In the Washington state and Montana state area, I can prescribe, I can do more advanced care should we need to do something in that department. And so can you use insurance? Yes, in Washington state, you can use insurance. I take a couple of insurances. In Montana, I do not, but I can prescribe there. And then anywhere else, it's coaching. It's just to keep it, simple on that side of things. And I'll still review labs. I'll still consult on anything. I just can't prescribe anything.
but you could refer out. You could refer out if there was a specialist or somebody you thought could be of benefit through that coaching. You could just refer to them.
And I mean, here we are talking about prescribing. It's not my jam.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up to be a glorified drug dealer.
Yeah.
For me, it's more, just sharing knowledge and really helping folks to really understand their bodies, because I want everyone to be their own best doctor.
Yeah.
I'm not here to be authority. I'm just here to help you, guide you along the way.
And it's so great that you offer that. I mean, not everybody does, but I think it's fantastic that you can offer your services to anyone everywhere. And yeah, that's fantastic.
Good stuff. I love it.
For those of you wanting more information, we will link Dr. J's social. I don't think she said exactly where she's located. Go ahead and spit it out. What do you
I
what
didn't. On Instagram, it's Dr. Dr. Jannine, Jannine, Krause, Krause, all put together. And then drjkrauseND.com is my website. Those are the best two places to find me. And of course, my podcast is linked in there as well. It's called the Health Fix Podcast.
Awesome. I love the Health Fix Podcast. A good variety of stuff that you bring in. And any last words of wisdom?
It's just stay curious about yourself.
Yeah.
Really, just stay curious, question things, and become your own best doctor. That's all I can say.
Awesome. Thanks again for your time today. And for all of you out listening, feel free to comment below if that's available. Otherwise, listen for the outro and you can join our wellness texting community. Until next time, y'all be curious and stay awesome. Thank you so much for listening today. If you feel any part of this episode resonated with you, then please consider sharing it with a friend who may also find value in it. And remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. For listening today. And before you go, did you know we have a fantastic resonated with you text community? Then please consider sharing it with a friend who may also find reminders delivered directly to your phone. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Then text keyword. And before you go, did you know we have a fantastic free text 2960? If you want more bite-sized keyword and reminders delivered directly to your phone, absolutely free. Then text keyword yes, and we'll see you to 206-483-2960. Again, that's keyword yes to 206-483-2960. And we'll see you.